Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. I've got a Pilates class for you, suitable for most levels. If you've got any major injuries, you might just want to choose an easier option that I'll give you. If anything just does not work for you today, again, don't do it. Just don't do it. It's no problem at all. We won't be spending too long on any particular exercise. So we're going to start with our roll downs, a little bit of a stretch through the back of the body. We're going to go through some basic breathing, some deeper abdominal connection, and then we're into the workout. So let's start with setting up our perfect posture in Pilates. Feet are hip distance apart, parallel, tripods are on, knees are unlocked. Pelvis is neutral. We've got our light ribs to hips connection at the front of the body. At the back of the body, shoulder blades are drawing down and back in a V toward the tailbone. Back of the neck is long, crown of the head reaching up toward the ceiling, and a little tuck in of the chin. Let's just take a couple of breaths here. So as we inhale through the nose, just want to feel the ribs expand laterally. And then as we exhale or sigh out through the mouth, just feel the rib cage soften or close again. Let's do that a couple more times. So inhaling, that lateral breathing into the rib cage. Good, and one more. Then our deeper abdominal connection and pelvic floor. So I want you to practice just drawing up or zipping up the pelvic floor like you're trying to stop yourself from going to the toilet. So light zipping up or internal lifting feeling. And then your lower abdominals. Imagine your hip bones drawing across towards one another, and then we want to flatten the lower abdominals in toward the spine. So with pelvic floor drawing up and lower abdominals drawing in, if you imagine a capital T on the pelvis, I'm going to refer to this as your T-zone during the class. So hip bone to hip bone, it's a horizontal line of the capital T, abdominals flattening in toward the spine, and from pubic bone up to meet that horizontal line, that represents your pelvic floor. So let's put all that together for a couple of breaths. Let's take an inhale. Then as you exhale, I'm going to zip up the pelvic floor, draw the lower abdominals in. Give it one more time. The T-zone on. We're going to do 3 roll downs. So inhale. Then as you exhale, I'm going to soften the knees, T-zone on, drop chin to chest, and just round the shoulders forward, just allowing your arms to fall naturally to the front of the body without controlling them. Knees as soft as you need them to be. Inhale at the bottom and exhale. A little tuck under of the pelvis. Restacking your spine one bone at a time. Inhale at the top. Eye gaze forward. Exhale, dropping chin to chest. Rounding forward. So peeling your spine off an imaginary wall behind you. Inhale at the bottom and exhale. Rolling all the way back up. And one more time. You want to feel the ribs rolling towards the hips, lifting up through the center, T-zone, and exhale to roll back up. Perfect. I'm going to get you to start lying on your back. We're going to have our feet hip distance apart, parallel. Tripods will be on. We're going to find a neutral spinal position. Shoulder blades drawing down and back. Arms just resting by your side. Little tuck in of the chin. And just take a couple of breaths here. You want to feel that small natural curve through your lower back, which most of us will have in this position. Your neutral spine. I'm going to start with bent knee fall out. So we're going to inhale to lower one knee out to the side, and then exhale to draw that leg back to center. Other side. Inhale to lower one knee out to the side, and exhale to draw the knee back to center. So as we do this, we only want to open the knee out as far as we can without changing the position of the pelvis and without allowing the pelvis to rock from side to side. So you can feel that even weight through the back of the hips on the mat. Sometimes with this exercise, if you place your hands on your pelvis, that can just help you to feel if you've got any any tipping from side to side. So our T-zone being nice and tight, that's going to stop that side to side rocking of the pelvis. So a couple more each side, just warming up through the T-zone. I'm going to keep our front body connection, so not arching through the lower back, not popping the rib cage. Good, last one. Beautiful, still from our neutral spinal position. Take your arms up to vertical, palms facing together, shoulder blades drawing down and back. Inhale, T-zone. As you exhale, you're going to take your arms behind you, reach back overhead, so hands toward the floor, and then inhale to bring them back up to vertical. So exhale to lower the arms down and back, then inhale back to vertical. So as we're taking our arms back behind us, we really want to draw ribs to hips to stop the lower back from arching and to stop the rib cage from popping up. Elbows are nice and straight, so only lower your arms as low as you can without bending the elbows and without losing that neutral spinal position. So you want to make sure the tripods are still on the feet, so knees are not splaying in or out. So exhale to lower the arms, drawing ribs to hips, inhale, back to vertical. Just a few more. So we're drawing shoulder blades down and back as we lower our arms behind us. Good, and one more. Nice and tight through the T-zone. Good, and resting arms back on the mat. We'll move into some single leg circles. We're going to start with quite a small movement. We're going to work the inner thighs and the abdominals. So from your neutral spinal position, take one leg up to vertical, or as best you can to vertical. We're going to turn the leg out, so you're looking at your inner thigh. As you exhale, you're going to lower the leg down and forward, then inhale to sweep the leg out, around, and back up to your starting position. Exhale to lower the leg down and forward, inhale to circle around and back up. So you can start to experiment with the size of the circle here. We only want to make the circle as big as we can, again, without tipping through the pelvis. We want to keep that turn out the whole time, so we're using the inner thigh. We're going to reach through the toes. Your non-working leg, let's just make sure that that knee is pointing straight up toward the ceiling. And you're not using your arms too much to stop the pelvis from moving. A little tiny bit of assistance, but abdominals are your focus here. Let's do two more in this direction. Check your turn out. Good, and now we reverse the circles. So exhale, then inhale. We're only going to do a few in this direction. Really turning that leg out, reaching through the toes. Pelvis is still. Other knee pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Last one. Good. Bending that knee, foot back on the floor. Extend the other leg up to vertical. Turn the leg out. Tripod on the other foot. Exhale to lower the leg down and forward. Inhale to sweep out, around, and back up to vertical. So it's all your perfect posture that we set up at the beginning of the class. Ribs to hips, shoulder blades drawing down and back. Pelvis is neutral. Back of the neck is long. And again, you make the circles as big as you want to without moving the pelvis. A couple more in this direction. T-zone nice and tight. Last one, and then we'll reverse the direction. Take the leg out, down, and up. Exhale to circle around. Inhale back to vertical. Check your turn out. You really want to be using the inner thigh. Let's do three more in this direction. leg as straight as you can. And bending the knee back in. Extend both legs out. I'm going to squeeze the legs together. I'm going to take our arms overhead, so you're reaching behind you. Close the rib cage. As you inhale, we're going to bring the arms to vertical, and then exhale to curl the head and shoulders up. Tuck the pelvis under as you roll up through the spine. Reach the arms forward, and just take a couple of breaths in this position. So eye gaze toward the knees. Abdominals drawing in and back. It's like someone's pulling you back from the waist. And then as you inhale, start to restack the spine, still reaching forward through the fingertips, shoulder blades down. Exhale to tuck the pelvis, roll down one vertebra at a time. Taking the arms back overhead. Inhale as arms come to vertical. Exhale to tuck the pelvis, rolling up, reaching forward, abdominals drawing up and back, eye gaze toward the knees, C curve through the spine. Inhale to restack. Exhale to tuck. Tilting the pelvis, rolling down vertebra by vertebra. Let's do two more. So inhale, then exhale. Really want to focus on that spinal articulation on the way up and down. Feeling that nice, quite strong stretch through the hamstrings and the back of the body. And last one. Chin tucks to chest. Good. And reach forward. And restack. Tuck the pelvis, rolling down. And resting the arms. Bending the knees again. Some reverse curls. So let's take our legs to tabletop. We're going to squeeze the knees and legs together. And then just for the first few, you can allow the heels to drop slightly. Starting from your neutral spine, what we're going to do is, as we exhale, we're going to curl the tailbone up off the mat. Feel the lower back round into the mat. We want to draw knees in towards the chest and then release back to neutral. So exhale, rolling the hips towards the ribs. And again, a little tiny bit of assistance through the arms, but don't let the arms do too much work. We want the lower abdominals drawing in, scooping and hollowing in. Lower abdominals being responsible for curling the pubic bone up toward the belly button. So all the way back into neutral. Good. Let's do two more. And then from the position where you've allowed the heels to drop slightly, let's go back into perfect tabletop and do our reverse curls from that position. So keeping the 90-degree angle, hips through the knees, I should say. Of course, that's going to change through the hips. You feel how that just adds a little bit more load, a little bit more work. Let's do three more. So you've got your level 1 with heels dropped. Level 2, legs at tabletop. Level 3, if you want to progress it, we're going to take legs to vertical. We're going to lower the legs down and forward just slightly. And then from there, reverse curl with straight legs. Again, because your legs are straight, because we're lowering the legs down and forward, just adding a little bit more load, keeping the focus on the lower abdominals. Two more. Really drawing the abdominals in. And bending the knees, just hug the knees into the chest. We're going to progress into rollovers. So if rollovers are just not happening for you today, just practice the reverse curls that we did, either level 1, 2, or 3. From here, let's take our legs back up to vertical. Shoulder blades drawing down and back, a little tuck in of the chin. I'm going to lower the legs down and forward slightly. And then fold the legs back over, just till legs are I'm going to say parallel to the floor. We're going to separate the legs, flex the feet, and then from there, in that position, roll back down through the spine, one vertebra at a time. Legs come to vertical, bring the legs together, point the toes, lower the legs down and forward. And again, nice and slow. So exhale to fold the legs over. Inhale to open the legs, flex the feet. And exhale to roll down through the spine. Legs vertical, together, point the toes, lower the legs down and forward. Exhale, fold the legs back. Inhale, separate, flex the feet. Now keep reaching back through the heels as you roll down through the spine. Do just a couple more. To make it a little bit more challenging, you can take the feet to the floor. Separate, flex. If your hamstrings are just not doing that today, it's okay, don't push it. No need. And last one. Rolling down through the spine. Really take your time here. Try not to collapse back to the mat. And legs back to vertical. Bend the knees, hug the knees into the chest. So they do take a little bit of practice. It is quite an intense stretch through the whole back of the body. So don't worry if you don't quite get it. You can bend the knees, of course, initially, but your goal over time is to get the knees straight, of course. Okay, let's move on to some sideline work. So get you to lie on your side. I'm going to extend the bottom arm out, nice and long. We're going to bring the knees toward the front of the mat, bending the knees so that your heels are roughly in line with the tailbone. You can place your top hand either on the hip or on the mat in front of you. We're going to come into our neutral spinal position. So if you imagine you're sticking your bottom out slightly, and you're really not, you're just coming into neutral, but it ensures that you're not tucking the tailbone under. We're going to stack the hips, so press the top hip away from the top rib. Feel how that lifts up through the bottom side waist. And this is a position that we need to maintain for the whole exercise. Ribs to hips, shoulder blades drawing down and back. Inhale, T-zone, exhale to open the top knee. And inhale to lower. Exhale to open. Inhale to lower. So we want to use the glute med here. So in order to get a better activation, what we can do is press the top heel into the bottom heel and just a little squeeze of the top glute just before we open. So it only needs to be quite a small movement. We want to stop any rolling backwards or forwards through the pelvis. So only open the knees as high as you can without rolling back through the pelvis. Just keep checking that perfect posture, shoulder blades going down and back, ribs to hips connection. And just a couple more. Starting to feel that through the top glute. So you usually don't need to do too many of these if you're in the correct position. So if you're not feeling something by now, often you just need a little tweak in position. It could be the position of your knees, for example. Of course, hard to give you any more correction than that because I can't see you. And last one. Now breathing changes slightly. We're going to add an extension with the top leg. So inhale to open. Exhale to extend the top leg out in line with the hip. Bend the knee and lower the knee. So inhale to open, exhale to extend, inhale to bend the knee back in and close. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. We'll keep going, pelvis nice and still. So as we extend that top leg, we really want to reach through the toes and make sure that the heel is in line with the tailbone. Keep pressing that top hip away from the top rib. Keep lifting through the bottom side waist. Just a couple more. And squeezing the top glute. And last one. I'm going to extend both legs out nice and long. It's a nice long line through the whole front of your body. Ribs to hips, lift the bottom side waist for single leg lift. So from here we inhale T-zone, exhale to lift the top leg, and inhale to lower. Exhale to lift, kneecap pointing forward, inhale to lower. So you can start to lift the leg a little higher and really thinking about the glute, top side glute again. A little squeeze just before you lift. Arm can rest along the top leg, on the mat, or it can stay on the hip. Let's do 4 more. And 3. And 2. Last one, and lower. I'm going to bring our knees into, or our legs, into a 90-degree position. So it's like a side-lying tabletop. Just make sure that the knees are directly in front of the hip. And again, that stacked position. So push the top hip away from the rib. Feel how everything's stacked. Inhale. And then as you exhale, we're going to lift the whole top leg as one unit. Just check here that the knee and the shin and the ankle are at the same height. We're not in this position. And we lower. So exhale to lift the whole leg. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. And again, you can lift a little higher. That's fine. Just make sure that alignment is perfect. No movement through the pelvis. Just a couple more. And lower the leg down. Let's do the other side. So we start with our clam 1. So about a 45-degree angle roughly through the hip joint, knees toward the front of the mat and heels in line with the tailbone. So sticking your bottom out slightly just to come into your neutral position. That's all you're doing. Press the top hip away. T-zone is on. And as you exhale, lift the top knee. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. And keep going. That little squeeze of the top glute just before you lift. And pressing the top heel into the bottom heel. Just often give you a little bit better activation. So try that. Lifting the knee as high as you can without rolling back through the hips. And a few more. Keep checking that you're not hunching that top shoulder up toward the ear. Still got a gap in the bottom side waist. Good. We're going to add the leg extension, so breathing changes. Inhale to open. Exhale, extend. Inhale to bend. And exhale to close. Inhale, open. Exhale, extend. Inhale, bend. And exhale to close. As you extend the leg out, really just pay attention. Make sure that you don't collapse through the bottom waist at the same time. You can extend the leg a little higher than hip height. But again, just keeping all your perfect posture stuff happening. Everything's in alignment. And take the time to really get that leg completely straight. Reaching through the toes. And a few more. Squeezing the top glute. Open, extend, bend, and close. Last one. And extend both legs out, nice and long. Long line through the front of the body. Lift through the bottom side, waist. Inhale, T-zone. Exhale, single leg lift. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. So reaching long through the top leg. Check we haven't flared the rib cage, not arching the lower back. Kneecap pointing forward. Again, just that little squeeze of the top glute just before you lift. So I was thinking about what we want to be working with every exercise. Let's do 4 more. Just moving in time with your breath. 3 more. And 2. T-zone still on, nice and tight. Good. And bending the knees. It's like your side lying tabletop position, shins in line with the front of the mat. Pressing the top hip away. I'm going to inhale, T-zone on as you exhale. Lifting the top leg as one unit. And inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. So you might notice that you start to fatigue a little more on one side or a little quicker on one side than the other. Maybe. Not many more. Nearly there. Check your perfect alignment. 3 more. And 2. And the last one. Beautiful. And coming up onto your knees. So we're going to do a little bit more glute work. We won't be here for too long though, because you're already nice and warmed up or fatigued. I'm going to do a kneeling side leg lift. So I want you to come down onto one hand, extend the top leg out to the side. So you've got a nice straight line between your hand, knee, and the foot. From here, you're going to find our perfect posture. So just a little tiny tuck under of the pelvis. And I do mean tiny, so you're in neutral spine, always coming back to that. We're going to close the rib cage, of course. Shoulder blades drawing down and back. You can either rest your top arm along the top leg or take the hand behind the head. I often find if you point the elbow up toward the ceiling, that can help to open up through the chest so that we don't collapse forward. Now from here, you're going to squeeze both butt cheeks as we inhale, T-zone on, and exhale to lift the top leg. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. So if you want to make it a little more challenging, you can either lift the top leg a little higher and don't tap the foot down. Keep it slightly lifted the whole time. If you want to make it easier, just don't lift the leg as high. Check that we're lifting up through the bottom side, waist again, not collapsing. Okay, just a few more. Squeezing both glutes this time. The glutes on both sides are working. Kneecap pointing forward, open through the rib cage. This time hold the leg up and pulse. Pulse, pulse, squeezing the glutes, reaching long through that top leg. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the leg back to the floor, bend the knee in, and straight over to the other side. So let's get our set up. Hand underneath the shoulder, Straight line from hand, knee to foot. Option, arm just resting on the top leg, or hand behind the head, open up through the chest, elbow pointing up toward the ceiling. Close the rib cage. Inhale, T-zone. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Exhale to lift. Inhale to lower. Now, if this side fatigue is a little quicker, that is to be expected, because as I mentioned, both sides are working. So this leg didn't get a rest. It's already been working. Reaching nice and long. Open through the chest, but not popping the rib cage. Ribs to hips connection. Neutral spine. T-zone is on. Still a few more. So remember to make it harder. Lift the leg higher and don't tap down. And the last one, I'm going to hold it up and pulse. Hold the leg up and pulse. Pulse, pulse. And can you keep your perfect posture while we pulse? Check the top shoulder hasn't rolled forward. So hopefully you're feeling that already. For 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower the foot, bend the knee in, and just come down into a seated position. Really quick glute stretch before we move on to our back work. So we're going to loosely cross the legs. I do mean very loosely. Lift up through the spine, and then tip forward from the hip. And just walk the hands forward along the floor. You probably won't need to go too far before you feel the stretch. But just try to think flat back rather than rounding forward, just lengthening through the spine. Eye gaze toward the floor, so neck is in line with spine. Just a couple of breaths here. And walk the hands back in, lift up through the chest, change legs. Loosely crossing, lift up nice and tall, tip forward from the hip. Walk the hands forward, eye gaze toward the floor. And walking the hands back in. And coming down onto your stomach. Our back work. I'm going to start with lower trapezius activation. So it is an activation exercise. It's quite a small movement. So I don't think you need to really try too hard. So it's not in the effort, it's concentration, but not physical effort. It's gonna nail this one for you. So let's bring our arms out, or elbows to about 90 degrees. So elbows in line with shoulders. We're gonna tuck the pelvis under. So in other words, tucking the pubic bone in toward the mat. We're gonna lift the lower abdominals up away from the mat. Eye gaze down toward the mat. And then hopefully, if it's comfortable for you, just resting your forehead on the mat as well. Shoulder blades just sitting flat up against the back of the rib cage. And from here, without lifting the hands, we're just going to glide the shoulder blades down and back toward the tailbone, and then just release. So exhale, so draw shoulder blades down and back, and release. So again, really small movement. Attention is in between the shoulder blades. There is no need to be pressing the hands into the floor. Just lightly resting on the floor. Check that you're still lifting up through the lower abdominals, so tucking the pubic bone into the mat. Good, and release. Just a few more. Just all the attention in between the shoulder blades. Drawing them down. Good. Last one. Good. And relax. This time we are going to lift the arms up off the mat, And we're going to lift them again just as one unit. So we don't want to have the elbows higher than the hands or hands higher than the elbows. We're going to have our arms parallel to the floor. Let's find our perfect position first. So we're lengthening through the legs. We're tucking the pubic bone into the mat. From here, we lift the head ever so slightly. Arms lift ever so slightly. And then as we exhale, we're going to shoot the arms forward, circle them out, around, and back into your starting position. So exhale, forward, inhale, circle around. It's like we're washing windows. So your whole arm stays parallel to the floor. Palm is always facing the floor. Keep tucking the pubic bone under. But now think what's happening to the shoulders as your hands shoot forward. We don't want the shoulders to hunch up toward the ears. So keep drawing the shoulder blades down and back. Just a few more. Of course, you can make the circles bigger, but without hunching the shoulders, without losing the tuck under of the pelvis. So we don't want this to bite into the lower back at all. Focus the upper back. Good, last one. And resting the head, resting the arms. And one more exercise. Let's take our arms by our side, palms facing up. I'm going to find that perfect position again. So tuck the pelvis, lift the lower abdominals up, reach through the legs. As we inhale, I'm going to lift the head and chest ever so slightly. Now reach the hands down towards the ankles. Feel the shoulder blades draw down and back. Hold this position here. Then we're going to turn the palms down, palms up, palms down, palms up, palms down and up. And we just keep rotating. So let's make sure that it's the whole arm that's actually rotating from the shoulder joint. It's not just the hands or the wrists or the elbows flicking over. Now we can lift the hands a little higher or the arms a little higher. You can lift the chest a little higher, still tucking the pubic bone under. Reach the fingertips down toward the ankles. Keep breathing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And lower the upper body. Take the hands next to the shoulders. Press up and back. So sitting the hips back onto the heels if you can. In order to make that happen, you can take the knees a little wider if you need to. Your forehead may or may not be resting on the mat. That's up to you. And lifting up through the chest. Bring the body weight forward, coming into your 4-point position. Hands underneath the shoulders. Knees underneath the hips, just finding your neutral spinal position, crown of the head reaching forward, eye gaze toward the mat. And then from here, just a few cat-cows. So we're going to tuck the pelvis under, I'm going to tuck the chin into the chest, press the hands into the mat, eye gaze between the knees, rounding the spine. And then we reverse that direction, come back through neutral, eye gaze forward, sternum and hips drop down toward the floor. And again, rounding the spine, feeling the shoulder blades separate. And again, back through neutral. This time send the tailbone up toward the ceiling as the sternum drops down toward the mat, eye gaze forward. And 2 more in each direction, just in your own time. And last one. Good, and back to your neutral position. I'm going to cross our legs. If this is more comfortable being on a chair or anything like that, go for it. Just a really quick mermaid variation. I'm going to take our arms out to the side. Make sure shoulder blades are joined down and back. From there, even weight through the hip bones. I'm going to take one hand to the floor, reach up toward the ceiling, and then reach to the side. Good, and back through the center. And other side, hand to the mat, bend the elbow, reach up, reach to the side. And just a couple more each direction. So as much bend as you need in the elbow. Want to reach tall and then reach to the side. And last one, each side. And back to center. And we are done. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.